My name is Edward. I am 43 years old and I am an engineer. My wife Isabella and I have been married for 16 years. Looking back on our married life, everything seems like a wonderful dream. Isabella and I met and fell in love at a young age and quickly decided to spend our lives together. Life has not been easy for us, especially in the first few years of our marriage. When finances were tight and our careers were just starting out, we had to save money and encourage each other to support each other. Fortunately, our love is very tough, and together we got through the difficult times. As time went by, my job got better and better, and Isabella's career flourished with frequent promotions at the advertising agency. Our living conditions got better and better, and with the addition of our lovely children, our family filled our home with laughter. From an outsider's point of view, we are an enviable model couple. Our friends, family, and co-workers all praise us for our love for each other. Isabella and I are very proud of our children, who are very active and excel in their studies. We live in a bright and spacious house, go for a walk after dinner every year, and take the kids to the park on weekends. Behind all this sweetness and coziness, only I knew that the marriage was changing. The first signs were subtle, such as Isabella's change of address from the affectionate honey to the distant hello. She began to work late, and even when she was home, she was always distracted by the children's problems. Gradually, she even criticized my work, comparing me to her boss, Alexander, with a hint of contempt in her voice. I tried to get her back by inviting her to dinner, but she repeatedly refused on the grounds that she was busy at work. What was once a loving relationship has now become a silent one at the dinner table. We no longer exchange ideas and share happiness as in the past, and even sleep on our own sides, as if separated by a canyon. I began to reflect on myself. Is it because I am too busy at work that I have neglected my family? Or is it that his wife is under pressure in the workplace and needs more consideration? I read marriage counseling books, trying to find a way to break the deadlock, but the more I read, the more terrified. Our marriage is at stake, and the reasons for the status quo. I'm afraid it's not as simple as being busy at work. I had thought that years of mutual love had built an impregnable fortress for us, but now all the signs are warning me that perhaps something is quietly but inexorably leading this marriage into an unknown abyss. As time passed, I gradually realized that Isabella's change was becoming more and more obvious. At one time, she would always pick up the kids after work and then go home to prepare dinner. But now she often uses overtime as an excuse for me to pick up the kids, and dinner has changed from her hand-cooked meal to a casual takeout meal. I tried to communicate with her, but she was always distracted, either looking at her cell phone or looking through documents, perfunctory. Gradually, I realized that Isabella had changed her address to me from honey to hello, and rarely even called me by my first name. She used to ask me about my work, but now she didn't even care if I got a promotion or a raise. She no longer shares her work with me, and even when I take the initiative to ask, she passes it off as "you don't understand." We communicate less and less, even at the same dinner table. She is always buried in her cell phone, to the children's questions perfunctorily. To add to my confusion and frustration, Isabella started comparing me to her boss, Alexander. One day, when I happily told her that I had been recognized for my project, she said coldly, "Alexander won a big client last week, and the company is going from strength to strength. So what do you think you're doing?" Her words like a pot of cold water poured on my head. I felt inexplicably frustrated and ashamed. Gradually, I found that she talked about Alexander more and more often. The words often show praise and yearning, but for me, but all the dissatisfaction and ridicule. I began to doubt my own value. Was I not working hard enough to give my family a better life? Is it because I don't care enough about her that she is so unhappy? I looked up marriage counseling books, trying to find a way to break the deadlock, which mentioned that couples should communicate openly, mutual understanding, and support. But when I tried to talk to Isabella, she always used the excuse of busy work as a perfunctory excuse, and even time and time again failed to meet our scheduled appointments. We used to be inseparable, but now we are strangers. I even tried to ask Isabella to go to marriage counseling, hoping to rebuild our relationship with the help of a professional. But when I suggested this carefully, I was greeted by her cynicism. "Counseling? I think you're too busy. Why don't you spend more time with your clients and earn more money?" Her reaction made me feel extremely frustrated, and I began to question whether I had done something wrong to bring this marriage to this point. As the changes in Isabella's behavior became more pronounced, my suspicions grew. I began to consciously observe her behavior and speech, hoping to find the source of the problem. I noticed that Isabella often came home late on the pretext of working overtime, but several times when I went to pick her up late at night, the lights in the office were dark. She explained that she had gone to a client's place, but I had a vague feeling that something was wrong. Once, I inadvertently glanced at her cell phone on the missed calls, clearly shows the name of Alexander, the degree of frequency far more than normal business transactions. My heart couldn't help but clench. Is there really something between them? I started looking into Isabella's whereabouts. I looked at her credit card statements and found that she often spent money at a fancy restaurant, but we hadn't been there together during that time. I snooped through her closet and found some expensive dresses that she'd never worn before, which, on second thought, wasn't her taste. All the signs pointed to a possibility that made me shudder. My wife, it seemed, was dating another man. My heart was in agony. My reason told me to trust my wife, but my intuition warned me that there was more to it than that. I began to look in Isabella's bag and on the table, hoping to find evidence that contradicted my suspicions. However, it was not to be. I found more disturbing signs. Lipstick marks on napkins, unfamiliar men's watches, a couple of mugs. Each discovery was like a sharp blade, piercing my heart. Finally, one day, when Isabella was in the shower, I got up the courage to check her cell phone. Just in her and Alexander's chat records, I saw the evidence that broke my heart. Sweet words of love, intimate name calling, the time and place of the date. The hard facts were in front of me, and I couldn't lie to myself anymore. It turns out that the alienation between us cold, all because she has another man outside. The pain of betrayal came over me like a tidal wave, and I felt like the sky was spinning and I could hardly breathe. I wanted to question her. I wanted to expose this heinous truth, but when I saw the innocent smiles of the children, I hesitated. Uncovering the truth would mean a broken family, and the children would be left without a complete home. Do I really want to do this? My heart was full of contradictions. On the one hand, I couldn't bear the deception, couldn't tolerate the behavior of betrayal of marriage. On the other hand, I was afraid of losing this hard-won family. Isabella's betrayal was like a thorn in my heart. I lived in pain every day. I couldn't sleep at night. I didn't know what to eat. I even began to doubt life. I put in all the effort and sincerity in exchange for his wife's deception, my life, in fact, for what? I knew that I had to make a choice, whether to swallow the anger, pretending not to know, and continue this superficial marriage, or bravely face, reveal this heartbreaking lies, even if the price is to lose everything now. Between love and reason, dignity and family, I wandered and struggled again and again, suffering a lot in my heart, but never able to make a decision. I struggled for weeks with pain and anguish, almost torn apart by inner conflict and doubt. I repeatedly asked myself whether I should trust Isabella's years of affection or face the mountain of evidence. I tried to convince myself that it was just a misunderstanding and that everything would be fine, but my reason ruthlessly pierced through the lie. I knew that if I kept going like this, I would break down completely. Finally, one difficult night, my long-suppressed emotions erupted, and I could no longer tolerate this kind of deception. When Isabella came home late on the pretext of working overtime again, I couldn't control myself any longer and asked her why she was so cold to me, why she worked overtime so often, and why she was having an affair with Alexander. I put the evidence that broke my heart one by one in front of her. Restaurant bills, ambiguous text messages, intimate photos. I screamed at the top of my lungs, counting all her betrayals and begging her to give me an explanation. I was shocked that Isabella, instead of showing a hint of remorse in the face of the overwhelming evidence, went to the extreme of denying everything. She ranted and raved, accusing me of distrusting her and invading her privacy. She hysterically denied having anything more than a working relationship with Alexander, insisting it was all in my head. She even went so far as to accuse me of neglecting my family and not caring about her struggles. Isabella's reaction was like a cold shower of water that poured down on my last hope. I realized that there was no more basic trust between us, and she, apparently, had gotten used to covering up everything with lies. At that moment, anger, sadness, disappointment, all kinds of complex emotions intertwined, almost drowned me. I felt immense pain for this no longer pure feelings, for this broken family, but also for my own blindness and stupidity. In the days that followed, Isabella and I fell into a cold war. We didn't talk to each other anymore, and even in front of the kids, there was only a superficial harmony. I moved to the guest room and spent my nights tossing and turning, my wounds growing bloodier and bloodier. I know that our marriage has come to an end, but when I think of the harm that divorce will do to the children, I hesitate. I was in an unprecedented confusion and pain, and felt that I was at the lowest point of my life. That's when I stumbled across a message from Robin, the wife of Isabella's lover, Alexander, on social media. On a hunch, I plucked up the courage to tell her what had happened to me. To my surprise, Robin's experience was so similar to mine. It turned out that while Isabella was flirting with Alexander, Alexander was also betraying his marriage. Robin and I had a great conversation, sympathized with each other, and gave each other great support and understanding. With Robin's encouragement, I was determined to face the truth and expose this dirty affair. Robin and I began to secretly collect evidence. I accessed Isabella's phone records and even hired a private detective to track her whereabouts. The evidence all pointed to the same heartbreaking truth. My wife was betraying our marriage with impunity. I was furious, humiliated, but also sobered. I couldn't tolerate this lie any longer for my own sake and for the sake of my children. Although I was still conflicted and struggling, I knew that I had to take action. No matter what the cost, I had to face the brutal truth and end this unfaithful marriage. When the truth was revealed, I felt like my world was falling apart. Anger, disappointment, and pain were intertwined and almost consumed me. I felt betrayed and cheated, and the sweet memories I had once had were now all lies. I asked myself over and over again, why did Isabella do this to me? Was I not good enough? Was our marriage, our family, worth nothing to her? Although my heart is full of devastation, but whenever I see the children's innocent smiles, I faltered. This family is our years of hard work, is the crystallization of our love. I really want to give up. I do not want to see the children suffer the pain of parental separation. I began to struggle with anger and reluctance. I tried to talk to Isabella, hoping to understand why she had betrayed her marriage. I told her about the pain in my heart and pleaded with her to give me an explanation. However, Isabella blamed me for everything. She said that I had ignored her feelings and failed to fulfill her emotional needs so that she could find solace in Alexander. Her words were like a sharp blade to my heart, and I felt so aggrieved and angry. Was it all my fault? In order to save my marriage, I decided to seek marital therapy. I was hopeful that with professional help, we might be able to rebuild trust. In therapy, I opened up as much as I could and analyzed my feelings. I tried to put myself in Isabella's shoes and reflect on my own shortcomings in the marriage. However, to my dismay, Isabella was not cooperative. She was always perfunctory and ignored my efforts. I gradually realized that perhaps the root of the problem was not me. As the therapy progressed, I came to see Isabella's true colors. She craved excitement and passion, and her dull home life was boring. She used the affair as a way to seek excitement, but never considered my feelings. This realization made my heart half cold. So our marriage was already full of holes, but I had been blind to it. Although my heart was still full of struggles, reason told me that a marriage without trust and respect could not be sustained. I couldn't tolerate betrayal, I couldn't tolerate cheating, and I couldn't tolerate Isabella blaming me for her mistakes. I began to realize that perhaps letting go was the best thing to do, and that we both needed to take a fresh look at the marriage and at each other's lives. After a long and painful struggle, I finally made up my mind to find an honest and clean future for myself and my children. Although my heart was still full of reluctance, I realized that it was far better to end an unfaithful marriage than to settle for less. After a painful struggle, I finally realized that my marriage with Isabella had come to an end. Her betrayal, deception, and disregard for my efforts to save the marriage made me realize that there was no trust and respect between us, which is the cornerstone of marriage. No matter how hard I try, I can't get her back, nor can I repair this broken relationship. Faced with the harsh reality, I knew that I had to take action to end this unhappy marriage. But I also knew that a divorce would not be easy, not only in the face of Isabella's resistance, but also in the legal battles that would ensue. I needed a thorough plan and solid evidence to get a fair outcome in court. Fortunately, I had Robin's help and support. As the wife of Isabella's lover, Alexander, she and I had similar experiences. We sympathized and decided to work together to plan the divorce. We met frequently to discuss how to gather evidence and how to deal with any problems that might arise. We looked at the law and consulted with lawyers to make sure we were on the right track. In order to gather evidence of Isabella's infidelity, I used every means possible. I hired a private investigator to follow her whereabouts and took photos of her meeting Alexander. I accessed her credit card records and found that she often used rooms in high-end hotels. I even hacked into her computer and found her emails and photos of her flirting with Alexander. Every piece of evidence made my heart ache, but I knew it was necessary. Only then could I have an advantage in court. Robin wasn't idle. She used her connections to obtain Alexander's business trip records from his company and discovered that the dates always coincided with Isabella's vacations. She also persuaded Alexander's secretary to testify about their intimacy in the office. The evidence was organized and filed for use at a critical time. While gathering evidence, we also planned for our lives after the divorce. We discussed the custody of the children and the division of property. We even planned to start a new life together after the divorce. These discussions gave me the courage to move forward and allowed me to see the light at the end of the darkness. However, our actions were not hidden from Isabella's eyes. She seemed to sense something and began to watch my every move. She deleted her cell phone records more frequently and became more cautious. Once, she even confronted me and asked me if I wanted a divorce. In the face of her aggressive questioning, I pretended to be calm and denied it, but my heart became more and more determined. I want to end this marriage as soon as possible, the sooner the better. And so, Robin and I worked together through thick and thin to prepare for the upcoming divorce battle. After months of careful preparation, Robin and I finally decided to take action and formally file for divorce from Isabella and Alexander. We chose a weekend when they were both in town, and with our respective lawyers, we ambushed them at a fancy restaurant they frequented. That day, my heart was extremely heavy, but I felt a sense of relief. I knew that this moment marked the end of my marriage and that the past was history. When Isabella and Alexander walked into the dining room, they didn't seem too surprised to see Robin and I with our lawyers. Isabella sneered and said, "I knew this day would come." The attorney handed them the prepared divorce agreement and began to read out the articles one by one. Based on the evidence we have, including photos taken by a private investigator and credit card charges, we asked Isabella to give up most of the community property. Our estate is worth $5 million, and I asked Isabella to take only 30%, or $1.5 million. Our joint savings and investments amounted to approximately $3 million, which I requested to be divided in the ratio of 65% to 35%, with $1.95 million for me and $1.05 million for Isabella. In consideration of the children's interests, we have decided that I will be the primary custodial parent, that Isabella will pay $2,500 per month in child support, and that she will have visitation with the children only on the second and fourth weekends of each month for no more than 6 hours at a time. I have the right to further restrict Isabella's visitation rights if she attempts to violate the agreement or defame me in front of the children. Faced with these terms, Isabella became furious, accusing me of being a complete hypocrite, calculating, and unloving. She claimed that she was the better person to raise the children because she was their mother. She threatened to destroy my career and reputation if I insisted on the current terms. I just looked at her calmly and told her that she ruined the family first and betrayed our vows. I took out the intimate photos of her and Alexander, as well as their ambiguous emails, and told her that if she dared to testify against me in court, I would release all these evidence to the public, and she would be the one who would lose her reputation. Isabella had no choice but to agree to my proposal of property division and sign the divorce agreement. Alexander, at Robin's insistence, agreed to leave the house and get only 20% of the couple's joint assets, with the remaining 80% going to Robin. When all the papers were signed, The negotiations, which had lasted all day, were finally over. I felt physically and emotionally exhausted, and this day marked the end of our 16-year marriage. My heart was filled with mixed emotions: pain, regret, anger, but at the same time, a sense of relief. I knew that from now on, I would start a brand new life, no longer bound by the past. As we left the restaurant, Robin held my hand tightly, her eyes revealing the same emotion. I knew that this divorce was a difficult decision for both of us, Biden, but it was also a necessary choice. We both need to live for ourselves and to pursue true happiness. On the way home, I thought about the events of the day over and over again. I thought of Isabella's resigned eyes and the innocent smiles of my children. I knew that the rest of the day would not be easy, as I still had to face the children's questions and deal with the aftermath of the divorce. After my divorce, I began to re-examine my life. For the past 16 years, I had put all my energy into my work and family, but I had neglected my inner needs. Now, I finally had a chance to think about what I wanted and what my life goals were. The first thing I faced was emotional trauma. Although my marriage to Isabella had long been over, I still felt a sense of pain and loss at the prospect of ending it completely. Often, in the quiet of the night, I would think back to what we had done and I would be overwhelmed with sadness. In order to overcome these feelings, I began to learn to meditate, taking time out every morning and evening to listen to my heart. Gradually, I began to learn to let go of the past and make peace with it. At work, I decided to give myself a new challenge. I quit my job and joined a startup company to work on their technology development. I was inspired by the company's product concept and loved the innovative and adventurous atmosphere. I've rediscovered my passion and motivation for life by taking on a new job. My children are the most important part of my life. After my divorce, I cherish every moment I have with them. I try to find time after work to take them to the park to play soccer or to finish their homework together. I hope to create a stable and cozy family environment for them to make up for the loss of their mother's love. I am pleased that the children seem to have gradually adapted to the new life, and their performance at school is getting better and better. Life was getting back on track, but I knew that I still had a lot to learn and improve. I started to read books on homeschooling and emotional management, hoping to become a better father and a better person. Throughout the long divorce process, Robin and I have grown close to each other. We were each other's strongest supporters, supporting and encouraging each other in our weakest and most helpless moments. We shared our frustrations and planned together how to deal with the challenges ahead. Gradually, I realized that I could not live without her company and warmth. I remember one time when I was under fierce attack by Isabella's lawyer in the courtroom and felt extremely frustrated. Robin held my hand tightly after the trial and told me not to give up and that we would surely be able to get through this difficult time. At that moment, I really felt that there was someone who stood by my side unconditionally, supporting me and trusting me. That feeling warmed my heart. As the divorce was finalized, Robin and I began to reflect on our lives. We both realized that our past marriages had not brought us any real happiness. We gave too much and got too little. Now, we finally have a chance to pursue our own happiness. One day, I found the courage to confess my feelings to Robin. To my surprise, she felt the same way about me. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with joy and excitement, as if my life was full of hope again. We agreed to take our time and explore the relationship together to see if we were really right for each other. We started going out more often, going to the movies, eating out, and going to concerts. We talked late into the night, sharing our thoughts and dreams. I realized that Robin was not only a strong and independent woman, but also a gentle and caring companion. She is always sensitive to my emotions and gives me support and encouragement when I need it. I, too, am learning to understand and care for her. Gradually, we began to think about starting a new family. We both knew that it would not be easy. We both had failed marriages, and we both had the responsibility of children. But we also believe that if we work together, we will be able to create a home full of love and warmth. In retrospect, it seems to be fate that Robin and I met. We both went through the lowest point in our lives, but we found each other. After going through this painful divorce journey, I have a new understanding of myself and my life. Looking back, I realized that I had put too much time and energy into my work and marriage, but neglected my true inner needs. I had lost myself and forgotten the true meaning of life. The frustration of divorce has taught me how to let go of the past and face new challenges with courage. I realized that there is no eternal pain in life, nor is there a hurdle that cannot be overcome. The key is to have the courage to face and change. I began to learn to enjoy life and to listen to my inner voice. I picked up my former hobbies and began to learn painting and yoga. Every time I finish a painting, every time I challenge a new yoga pose, I feel immensely satisfied and happy. I've also begun to emphasize my emotional needs. In the past, I always put my family and my children first, but neglected my own happiness. Now, I realize that only when I am well myself can I give my children a truly happy home. I have learned to express my feelings and to be brave enough to pursue my own happiness and love. My relationship with Robin has made me believe again that love can be simple and pure and can make people feel solid and warm. At work, I took the plunge and joined a startup company, and although I faced more uncertainty, I enjoyed the challenging and creative environment. I have come to believe that if I continue to learn and grow, I will be able to achieve more in my career. After all this, I am full of hope and optimism for the future. I realize that there will be ups and downs in life, but as long as we have hope and the courage to face them, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome. I look forward to working with Robin and the children to start a new chapter in their lives and create more wonderful memories. Dear friends, I am sharing this story today in the hope that it will bring some inspiration and encouragement to those of you who are going through or have gone through a similar predicament. I want to tell you that no matter how hard life is, please don't give up so easily. Pain and frustration are in fact the catalyst for our growth. As long as we have the courage to face them and reflect on them, we will be able to stand up from the setbacks and gain growth and strength. Remember, the power of life is always in our own hands. We cannot decide what will happen in life, but we can decide with what kind of mentality to face. Please believe that as long as we have hope, adhere to the dream, we will be able to create their own satisfaction of life. In conclusion, I would like to say, don't be afraid of change, don't be afraid of the unknown. Life is a journey full of possibilities. May we all discover and grow in this journey and ultimately become a better version of ourselves. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.